Alright, diving right into this. This is Book 11 of the Odyssey, written by Homer and translated by Emily Wilson. Book 11, The Dead. We reached the sea, and first of all, we launched the ship in sparkling salty water, set up the mast and sails, and brought the sheep on board with us. We were still grieving, weeping in floods of tears. But beautiful, dread Circe, the goddess who can speak in human tongues, sent us a wind to fill our sails. Fair wind befriending us behind the dark blue prow. We made our tackle ship-shape, then sat down. The wind and pilot guided straight our course. The sun set. It was dark in all directions. We reached the limits of deep-flowing ocean, where the Cimmerians live and have their city. Their land is covered up in mist and cloud. The shining sun god never looks on them with his bright beams, not when he rises up into the starry sky, nor when he turns back from the heavens to earth. Destructive night blankets the world for all poor mortals there. We beached our ship, drove out the sheep, and went to seek the stream of ocean where the goddess had told us we must go. Eurylochus and Perimedes made the sacrifice. I drew my sword and dug a hole, a cubit widthway and lengthways, and I poured libations for all the dead. First honey mix, sweet wine, and lastly water. On the top, I sprinkled barley and made a solemn vow that if I reached my homeland, I would sacrifice my best young heifer, still uncalved, and pile the altar high with offerings for the dead. I promised for Tiresias as well, a pure black sheep, the best in all my flock. So with these vows, I called upon the dead. I took the sheep and slit their throats above the pit. Black blood flowed out. The spirits came up out of Erebus and gathered round. Teenagers, girls, and boys, the old who suffered for many years, and fresh young brides whom labor destroyed in youth. And many men cut down in battle by bronze spears, still dressed in armor stained with their blood. From every side they crowded around the pit with eerie cries. Pale fear took hold of me. I aroused my men and told them to flay the sheep that I had killed, and burn them, and pray to Hades and Persephone. I drew my sword and sat on guard, preventing the spirits of the dead from coming near the blood, till I had met Tiresias. First came the spirit of my man Elpenor, who had not yet been buried in the earth. We left his body in the house of Circe without a funeral or burial. We were too occupied with other things. Inside of him, I wept in pity, saying, "Elpenor, how did you come here in darkness? You came on foot more quickly than I sailed." He groaned in answer, "Lord Odysseus, you master every circumstance. But I had bad luck from some god, and too much wine befuddled me. In Circe's house I lay upstairs, and I forgot to use the ladder to climb down from the roof. I fell head first. My neck was broken from my spine. My spirit came down to Hades. By the men you left, the absent ones, and by your wife and father who brought you up from babyhood, and by your son Telemachus, whom you abandoned alone at home, I beg you, when you sail from Hades and you dock your ship again at Aea, please, my lord, remember me. Do not go on and leave me there unburied, abandoned, without tears or lamentation, or you will make the gods enraged at you. Burn me with all my arms, and heap a mound beside the gray salt sea, so in the future people will know of me and my misfortune, and fix into the tomb the oar I used to row with my companions while I lived." "Poor man," I answered, "I will do all this." We sat there talking sadly. I on one side held firm my sword in blood, while on the other the ghost of my crew member made his speech. Then came the spirit of my own dead mother, Achilles' daughter, Anticleia, whom I had left alive when I went off to holy Troy. On seeing her, I wept in pity, but despite my bitter grief, I would not let her near the blood till I talked to Tiresias. The prophet came to me holding a golden scepter, and he knew me and said, "King under Zeus, Odysseus, a death survivor, why did you abandon the sun, poor man, to see the dead in this place without joy? Step back now from the pit, hold up your sharp sword so that I may drink the blood and speak to you." At that I sheathed my silver-studded sword. When you had drunk the murky blood, the famous prophet spoke. "Odysseus, you think of going home as honey sweet, the gods will make it bitter. I think Poseidon will not cease to feel incensed because you blinded his dear son. You have to suffer, but you can get home. You can control your urges and your men. Turn from the purple depths and sail your ships towards the islands of Thrinacia. There you'll find grazing cows and fine fat sheep, belonging to the god who sees and hears all things, the sun god. If you leave them be, keeping your mind fixed on your journey home, you may still get to Ithaca, despite great losses. But if you hurt those cows, I see disaster for your ship and for your men. If you yourself escape, you will come home late and exhausted in a stranger's boat, having destroyed your men, and you will find invaders eating your supplies at home, courting your wife with gifts. Then you will match the suitors' violence and kill them all inside your halls, through tricks or in the open, with sharp bronze weapons. When those men are dead, you have to go away and take an oar to people with no knowledge of the sea, who do not salt their food. They never saw a ship's red prow, nor oars the wings of boats. I prophesy the signs of things to come. When you meet somebody, a traveler, who calls the thing you carry on your back a winnowing fan, then fix that oar in earth and make fine sacrifices to Poseidon, a bull and stud boar. Then you will go home and offer holy hecatombs to all the deathless gods who live in heaven, each in order. Gentle death will come to you, far from the sea of comfortable old age, your people flourishing. So it will be. I said, Tiresias, I hope the gods spin out this fate for me, but tell me this and tell me the truth. I saw my mother's spirit sitting in silence near the blood, refusing even to talk to me or meet my eyes. My lord, how can I make her recognize that it is me? At once he made his answer. That is an easy matter to explain. That is, whenever you allow one of these spirits to come here near the blood, it will be able to speak the truth to you. As soon as you push them away, they have to leave again. With that, Tiresias, the prophet spirit, is finished. He departed to the house of Hades. I stayed rooted there in place until my mother came and drank the blood. She knew me then and spoke in tones of grief. My child, how did you come here through the darkness while you were still alive? This place is hard for living men to see. There are great rivers with dreadful gulfs, including the great ocean, which none can cross on foot. One needs a ship. How have you come wandering here, so far from Troy, with ship and crew? Have you not yet arrived in Ithaca, nor seen your wife at home? I answered, Mother, I was forced to come to Hades to consult the prophet spirit, Theban Tiresias. I have not yet come near to Greece, nor reached my own home country. I have been lost and wretchedly unhappy since I first followed mighty Agamemnon to Troy, the land of horses, to make war upon the people there. But tell me, how was sad death brought upon you? By long illness? Or did the archer Artemis destroy you with gentle arrows? Tell me, too, about my father and the son I left behind. Are they still honored as the kings, or has another taken over, saying I will not return? And tell me what my wife is thinking, and her plans. Does she stay with our son and focus on his care, or has the best of the Achaeans married her? My mother answered, She stays firm. Her heart is strong. She is still in your house, and all her nights are passed in misery and days in tears, but no one has usurped your throne. Telemachus still tends the whole estate, unharmed and feasts in style, as lords should do, and he is always asked to council meetings. Your father stays out in the countryside. He will not come to town. He does not sleep on a real bed with blankets and fresh sheets. In winter he sleeps inside by the fire, just lying in the ashes with the slaves. His clothes are rags. In summer and at harvest, the piles of fallen leaves are bed for him. He lies there grieving, full of sorrow, longing for your return. His old age is not easy, and that is why I met my fate and died. The goddess did not shoot me in my home, aiming with gentle arrows, nor did sickness suck all the strength out from my limbs with long and cruel wasting. No, it was missing you, Odysseus, my sunshine, your sharp mind and your kind heart. That took sweet life from me. Then in my heart I wanted to embrace the spirit of my mother. She was dead, and I did not know how. 3 times I tried, longing to touch her, but 3 times her ghosts flew from my arms like shadows or like dreams. Sharp pain pierced deeper in me as I cried, No, mother! Why do you not stay for me and let me hold you even here in Hades? Let us wrap loving arms around each other and find a frigid comfort in shared tears. But is this really you, or has the queen sent me a phantom to increase my grief? She answered, Oh, my child, you are the most unlucky man alive. Persephone is not deceiving you. This is the rule for mortals when we die. Our muscles cease to hold the flesh and skeleton together. As soon as life departs from our white bones, the force of blazing fires destroys the corpse. The spirit flies away and soon is gone, just like a dream. Now hurry to the light. Remember all these things, so you may tell your wife in times to come. As we were talking, some woman came, sent by Persephone, the daughters and wives of warriors. They thronged and clustered around the blood. I wanted to speak to each of them and made a plan. I drew my sword and would not let them come together in a group to drink the blood. They took turns coming forward, and each told her history. I questioned each. The first was well-born Tyro, child of Salmoneus, and wife of Tiresias, Aeolus' son. She fell in love with river Enipeus, most handsome of all rivers that pour water over the earth. She often went to visit her lovely streams. Poseidon took his form, and at the river mouth he lay with her. Around them arced a dark blue wave that stood high as a mountain, and it hid the god and mortal woman. There he loosed her belt and made her sleep. The god made love to her, and afterwards he took her hand and spoke. Woman, be glad about this love. You will bear glorious children in the coming year. Affairs with gods always result in offspring. Look after them and raise them. Now go home. Tell no one who I am, but I will tell you. I am Poseidon, shaker of the earth. With that he sank beneath the ocean waves. She brought two sons to terms, named Peleus and Neleus, those sturdy boys who served Almighty Zeus, and Peleus' home was on the spacious dancing fields of Iolcus, where sheep are plentiful. His brother lived in sandy Pylos, and she bore more sons to Tiresias, Aeson, Phares, and Amithaon, who loved war chariots. And after her I saw Antiope, who said she slept in Zeus's arms and bore two sons, Amphion and Zethus, the first settlers of Thebes, city of 7 gates. Strong though they were, they could not live there on the open plain without defenses. Then I saw Alcimene, wife of Amphitryon, who by great Zeus conceived the lion-hearted Heracles. And I saw Megara, proud Creon's child, and the wife of tireless Heracles. I saw fine Epicast, Oedipus' mother, who did a dreadful thing in ignorance. She married her own son. He killed his father and married her. The gods revealed the truth to humans, through their deadly plans. He ruled the Cadmeans in Thebes, despite his pain, but Epicast crossed the gates of Hades. She tied a noose and hung it from the ceiling, and hanged herself for sorrow, leaving him the agonies a mother's furies bring. Then I saw Chloris, who was youngest daughter of Amphion, who ruled the Minyons in Orchomenus. She was beautiful, and Neleus paid rich gifts for her. She was the queen in Pylos, and she bore Chromius, Nestor, Periclymenus, and mighty Pyro, who was such a marvel that all the men desired to marry her. But Neleus would only let her marry a man who could drive off the stubborn cattle of Iphiclus from Phylace. The prophet Melampus was the only one who tried, but gods restrained him. Cursing him, the herdsmen shackled him. Days and months went by, the seasons changed, the year went by, until at last Iphiclus set him free as his reward for prophecy. The will of Zeus was done. And then I saw Tyndareus' wife, Leda, who bore him 2 strong sons, the horseman Castor and Polydeuces, skillful boxer. Life-giving earth contains them, still alive. Zeus honors them even in the underworld. They live and die alternately, and they are honored like gods. And then I saw Iphimedia, wife of Aloeus, who proudly said Poseidon slept with her. She had 2 sons whose lives were both cut short, Otis and famous Ephialtes, whom the fertile earth raised up as the tallest heroes after renowned Orion. At 9 years, they were 9 cubits wide, 9 fathoms high. They brought the din of dreadful raging war to the immortal gods and tried to set Ocean and Pelion, trees, leaves and all, on Mount Olympus, high up in the sky. They might have managed it if they had reached full adulthood. Apollo, son of Zeus, by braided Leto, killed them. They were both dead before down could grow on their young chins, dead before beards could wreathe their naked faces. Then I saw Phaedra, Procris, and the lovely daughter of dangerous Minos, Ariadne. Theseus tried to bring her back from Crete to Athens, but could not succeed. The goddess Artemis killed her on the Isle of Dia when Dionysus spoke against her. Then came Mera, Clymene, and Eryphile. Accepting golden brides, she killed her husband. I cannot name each famous wife and daughter I saw there. Holy night would pass away before I finished. I must go to sleep on board the ship beside my crew, or else right here. I know the gods and you will help my onward journey. They were silent, spellbound, listening in the shadowy hall. White-armed Arete spoke. Phaeacians, look at him. What a tall, handsome man, and what a mind. He is my special guest, but all of you share in our rank as lords. So do not send him away too fast, and when he leaves, he must be generous. He is in need, and you are rich in treasure, through the will of the gods. The veteran Achilles, the oldest man in their company, said, Our wise queen has hit the marks, my friends. Do as she says, but first Alcinous must speak and act. The king said, Let it be as she has spoken, as long as I am ruler of this nation of seafarers. I know our guest is keen to go back home, but let him stay till morning. I will give all his presents then. You men will all help him, but I will help the most, since I hold power here. Odysseus answered careful tack. Alcinous, king over all the people, if you urged me to stay here for a year before you gave the parting gifts and sent me on my way, I would be happy. It would be far better to reach my own dear home with hands filled full of treasure, so all men would honor me and welcome me back home in Ithaca. Alcinous replied, Odysseus, the earth sustains all different kinds of people. Many are cheats and thieves who fashion lies out of thin air, but when I look at you, I know you are not in that category. Your story has both grace and wisdom in it. You sounded like a skillful poet, telling the sufferings of all the Greeks, including what you endured yourself. But come now, tell me if you saw any spirits of your friends who went with you to Troy and undertook the grief and pain of war. The night is long. It is not time to sleep yet. Tell me more amazing deeds. I would keep listening until bright daybreak if you kept on telling the dangers you have passed. Odysseus answered politely, King Alcinous, there is time for many tales, but also a time for sleep. If you still want to hear, I will not grudge you stories. I will tell you some even more distressing ones, about my friend who managed to escape the shrieks and battle din at Troy, but perished later, killed in his own home by an evil wife. Holy Persephone dispersed the ghosts of women, and they went their separate ways. The ghost of Agamemnon came in sorrow, with all the rest who met their fate with him, inside Agasthus' house. He recognized me when he had drunk the blood. He wept out loud and tearfully reached out his hands towards me, desperate to touch. His energy and strength, and all the suppleness his limbs once had, were gone. I wept, and my heart pitied him. I cried out, Lord of men, King Agamemnon, how did you die? What bad luck brought you down? Was it Poseidon rousing up a blast of cruel wind to wreck your ships? Or were you killed on dry land by enemies as you were poaching their fat flocks of sheep or cattle, or fighting for their cities and their wives? He answered right away, King under Zeus, Odysseus, survivor. No, Poseidon did not rouse up a dreadful blast of wind to wreck my ship. No hostile men on land killed me in self-defense. It was Agasthus, who planned my death and murdered me with help from my own wife. He called me to his house to dinner, and he killed me, as one slaughters an ox at manger. What a dreadful death. My men were systematically slaughtered, like pigs in a rich lord's house for some feast, a wedding, or a banquet. You have seen many cut down in war and thick of battle, or slaughtered in a combat hand-to-hand. But you would grieve with even deeper pity if you could see us lying dead beneath the tables, piled with food and wine. The floor swam thick with blood. I heard the desperate voice of Priam's daughter, poor Cassandra, whom deceitful Clytemnestra killed beside me. As I lay dying, struck through by the sword, I tried to lift my arms up from the ground. That she-dog turned away. I went to Hades. She did not even shut my eyes or close my mouth. There's no more disgusting act than when a wife betrays a man like that. That woman formed a plot to murder me, her husband. When I got back home, I thought I would be welcomed, at least by my slaves and children. She has such an evil mind that she has poured down shame on her own head and on all other women, even good ones. I cried out, "Curse her! Zeus has always brought disaster to the house of Atreus through women. Many men were lost for Helen, and Clytemnestra formed this plot against you when you were away." At once he answered, "So you must never treat your wife too well. Do not let her know everything you know. Tell her some things, hide others. But your wife will not kill you, Odysseus. The wise Penelope is much too sensible to do such things. Your bride was very young when we went off to war. She had a baby still at her breast who must now be a man. He will be glad when you come home and see him, and he will throw his arms around his father. That is how things should go. My wife prevented my eager eyes from gazing at my son. She killed me first. I have a final piece of sound advice for you. Take heed of it. When you arrive in your own land, do not anchor your ship in full view. Move in secret. There is no trusting woman any longer. But have you any news about my son? Is he alive? Is he in Orchomenus, or sandy Pylos, or with Menelaus in Sparta? Surely my son Orestes is not yet dead." I answered, "Agamemnon, why ask me this? I do not even know whether he is alive or dead. It is pointless to talk of hypotheticals." Both of us wept profusely, deeply grieving over the bitter words we spoke. Then came the spirits of Achilles and Patroclus, and of Antilochus and Ajax, who was handsomest and had the best physique of all the Greeks, next only to Achilles the sprinter. And Achilles recognized me and spoke in tears. "My lord Odysseus, you fox! What will you think of next? How could you bear to come down to Hades? Numb dead people live here, the shades of poor exhausted mortals." I said, "Achilles, greatest of Greek heroes, I came down here to meet Tiresias, in case he had advice for my return to rocky Ithaca. I have not even returned to Greece, my homeland. I have had bad luck, but no one's luck was ever better than yours, nor ever will be. In your life, we Greeks respected you as we do gods. Now that you are here, you have great power among the dead. Achilles, you should not be bitter about your death." But he replied, "Odysseus, you must not comfort me for death. I would prefer to be a workman, hired by a poor man on a peasant farm, than rule as king of all the dead. But come tell me about my son. Do you have news? Did he march off to war to be a leader? And what about my father, Peleus? Does he still have good standing among all the Myrmidons, or do they treat him badly in Phthia and Greece, since he is old and frail? Now I have left the light of day, and am not there to help, as on the plains of Troy when I was killing the best Trojans to help the Greeks. If I could go for even a little while, with all the strength I had, up to my father's house, I would make those who hurt him and disrespect him wish my hands were not invincible." I answered him, "I have no news to tell about your father. But I can tell you all about your son, dear Neoptolemus. I brought him from Cyrus by ship, with other well-armed Greeks, when we were strategizing about Troy. When we were strategizing about Troy, he always spoke up first and to the purpose, unmatched except by Nestor and myself. And when we fought at Troy, he never paused in the great throng of battle. He was always fiercely running forward, and he slaughtered enormous numbers in the clash for war. I cannot name all those he killed for us. With his bronze he cut down Eurypylus, the son of Telephus, most handsome man I ever saw, next only to great Memnon. The multitude of Sacians he brought were also killed, since Priam bribed his mother. When we, the Argive leaders, were preparing to climb inside the wooden horse, it was my task to open up and close the door. The other Greek commanders were in tears, their legs shaking. "Not your handsome boy." I never saw his face grow pale. He had no tears to wipe away. Inside the horse, he begged me to allow him to jump out. He gripped his sword hilt and his heavy spear, so desperate to go hurt the Trojans. At last, when we sacked the lofty city of Priam, he embarked, weighed down with spoils. No sharp brown spear had wounded him at all. He was unhurt by all the skirmishes, endured in war when Ares rages blind. After I told him this, Achilles' ghost took great swift-footed strides across the fields of Asphodel, delighted to have heard about the glorious prowess of his son. Other dead souls were gathering, all sad. Each told a story of his sorrow. Only Ajax kept back, enraged because I won Achilles' armor when the case was judged beside the ship. The hero's mother, Thetis, and sons of Troy, and Pallas gave the arms to me. I wish I had not won this contest. For those arms, Ajax lies beneath the earth, whose looks and deeds were best of all the Greeks. After Achilles, son of Peleus, I spoke to him to try and make it up. Please, Ajax, son of mighty Telamon, can you not set aside your rage at me about those cursed arms, not even now in death? The gods made them to ruin us. You were our tower, what a loss you were. We Greeks were struck by grief when you were gone. We mourned as long for you as for Achilles. Blame nobody but Zeus. He ruined us in hatred for the army of the Greeks, and that was why he brought this doom on you. But listen now, my lord, subdue your anger. He did not answer. He went off and followed the spirits of the dead to Erebus. Despite his rage, we might have spoken longer if I had not felt in my heart an urge to see more spirits. I saw Minos there, the son of Zeus, who holds the golden scepter and sits in judgment on the dead. They asked their king to arbitrate disputes inside the house of Hades, where the doors are always wide open. I saw great Orion chasing across the fields of Asphodel the beast he killed when living high in lonely mountains, holding his indestructible bronze club. I saw Titus, son of Gaia, stretched out 9 miles when Leto, Zeus's lover, was traveling to Pytho through the fields of beautiful Panopeus. He raped her. 2 vultures sit on either side of him, ripping his liver, plunging in his bowels. He fails to push them off. I saw the pain of Tantalus, in water to his chin, so parched, no way to drink. When that old man bent down towards the water, it was gone. Some god had dried it up, and at his feet dark earth appeared. Tall, leafy trees hung fruit above his head, sweet figs and pomegranates, brightly shining apples and ripe olives. But when he grasped them with his hands, the wind hurled away towards the shadowy clouds. And I saw Sisyphus in torment, pushing a giant rock with both hands, leaning on it with all his might to shove it upwards towards the hilltop. And when he almost reached the peak, its weight would swerve, and it would roll back down heedlessly. But he kept on straining, pushing, his body drenched in sweat, his head all dusty. I saw a phantom of great Heracles. The man himself is with the deathless gods, happy and feasting with fine ankled Hebe, the child of mighty Zeus and golden Hera. Around his ghost the dead souls shriek like birds, all panic-struck. He walked like gloomy night, holding his bow uncased and with an arrow held on a string. He glowered terribly, poised for a shot. Around his chest was kept a terrifying baldric made of gold, fashioned with marvelous images, bears, wild boars, and lions with fierce staring eyes, and battles and the slaughtering of men. I hope the craftsman who designed this scene will never make another work like this. This Heracles at once knew who I was, and full of grief he cried, Odysseus, master of every circumstance. So you were also tortured by the weight of fortune, as I was while I lived beneath the sun. I was the son of Zeus, and yet my pain was infinite. I was enslaved to someone far less heroic than myself, who laid harsh labors on me. Once he sent me here to bring back Cerberus, since he could think of no worse task for me. I brought the dog up out of Hades with the help of Hermes and flashing-eyed Athena. He went back to Hades' house. I stayed in case more heroes who died in ancient times should come to me. I would have seen the noble men I hope for. Pirithous and Theseus, God-born. The masses of the dead came thronging round with eerie cries, and cold fear seized me, lest the dreadful Queen Persephone might send the monster's head, the Gorgon, out of Hades. So then I hurried back and told my men to climb on board the ship and loose the cables. They did so, and sat down along the benches. The current bore the ship down the river ocean, first with the help of oars, and then fair wind.